The cold didn't ask permission before it began killing her. Aria's knees hit the snow first, then her palms, then her cheek, pressed against ice that burned worse than fire. Her fingers had stopped hurting an hour ago. That was bad. She knew that was bad. But the knowing felt distant now, like someone else's memory, someone else's dying body curling into itself as the blizzard howled. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Whether you're listening from somewhere warm or battling your own winter, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It helps me bring you more stories like this one. Stories about survival, betrayal, and the kind of love that refuses to let you freeze alone in the dark. Behind her, miles behind her now, the Silvercrest pack walls rose like teeth against the storm. She couldn't see them anymore. Couldn't see anything but white and gray and the encroaching black at the edges of her vision. Please, she whispered to no one. To the goddess, maybe. To the wind. Please, I didn't do it. The wind screamed back, mocking her. They hadn't even let her speak at the trial. Alpha Ronin had stood before the entire pack, his face carved from stone, and declared her a traitor. A conspirator. Someone who'd leaked pack secrets to their enemies, endangered lives, broken the most sacred laws. All lies. But who would believe the orphaned Omega over their Alpha? Over his son, Matthias, who'd stood beside his father with those cold blue eyes and that perfectly crafted expression of disappointment. Matthias, who'd whispered promises in her ear just 2 nights before. Who'd touched her like she was precious. Who'd made her believe, goddess, she'd been so stupid that maybe she could be more than the girl no one wanted. The girl they'd now sentenced to death. Exile in winter wasn't exile. It was execution with clean hands. Aria's body convulsed, shivers so violent they felt like seizures. Her wolf whimpered somewhere deep inside, too weak to shift, too broken to fight. They'd made her drink wolfsbane before throwing her out, just enough to suppress her shift, to strip away her only protection against the elements. You'll die as you lived, Ronin had said. Weak. Human. Alone. She'd crawled for miles before her legs gave out. Now she just waited. The snow was almost peaceful in a terrible way. Soft. Quiet. It didn't judge her. Didn't call her traitor or whore or the bastard child no one claimed. Her eyes drifted shut. I'm sorry, she thought to her wolf. I'm so sorry I couldn't save us. Then, a sound. Not wind. Not the creak of ice or the whisper of snow sliding from branches. A growl. Low. Deep. Vibrating through the frozen ground and into her dying body like an earthquake-given voice. Aria's eyes snapped open or tried to. Her lashes were frozen together. She managed one eye, just one, and through the blur of snowflakes and failing vision, she saw it. A shape. Massive. Moving through the blizzard like the storm itself had taken form. A wolf. But no wolf was that large. No wolf moved with that kind of deliberate, predatory grace, each paw print in the snow the size of dinner plates. Her heart, sluggish, fading, kicked once with pure animal terror. Come to finish the job, she thought distantly. Even nature wants me dead. The wolf circled her. She could only track it with that one half-frozen eye, watching the dark silhouette pace around her crumpled body. Watching it stop. Lower its massive head. She should be afraid. Should fight. But she was so cold. So tired. If death came with teeth instead of ice, at least it would be faster. The wolf's breath hit her face, hot, impossibly hot, smelling of pine and smoke and something wild that made her Omega wolf stir for the first time in hours. Then teeth closed around her jacket. Not biting. Gripping. Aria's world tilted as the creature dragged her, pulled her through the snow like she weighed nothing. She couldn't fight. Couldn't even whimper. Could only let herself be hauled across the frozen wasteland like prey. The wolf pulled her into darkness, a cave, maybe, or a hollowed tree, somewhere the wind didn't reach. Somewhere the snow stopped falling. She collapsed onto stone. Dry stone. The wolf circled her again, then did something impossible. It lay down beside her. Against her. That massive body curling around her frozen form, pressing close, sharing heat that no wild animal should share with prey. Aria's remaining consciousness fractured with confusion. Wolves didn't save dying humans. Predators didn't shelter food. Unless the heat was working. She could feel her fingers again, goddess. The pain could feel blood starting to move through vessels that had begun to freeze solid. Against her back, she felt the steady rhythm of the wolf's heartbeat. Felt its breath on her neck. Felt something that might have been protection. "What are you?" she wanted to ask. But darkness swallowed her whole before she could form the words, dragged her down into unconsciousness with only one certainty remaining. She wasn't dead. Not yet. And something had decided she was worth saving. Aria woke to warmth. Not the aggressive heat of fire, but something alive. Breathing. Solid against her back like a furnace wrapped in fur. Her eyes opened slowly, crusty with sleep and the remnants of frozen tears. Gray light filtered through the cave entrance, dawn, maybe, or just the perpetual twilight of storm season. She was alive. That realization hit first, sharp and disorienting. The second realization hit harder. The wolf was still there. She could feel it without turning, the massive weight pressed along her spine, the rhythmic rise and fall of its breathing, the occasional twitch of muscle beneath thick fur. One enormous paw lay draped over her waist, heavy as a fallen branch but somehow careful. Aria's heart hammered against her ribs. "Move," her instincts screamed. Slowly. "Don't wake it." She shifted an inch. Then another. The paw tightened fractionally, and a low rumble vibrated through the wolf's chest, not quite a growl, more like a warning purr, if wolves could purr. "Stay," it seemed to say. "Safe." "Okay," she whispered, her voice cracked and raw. "Okay, I'm not going anywhere." The rumble softened. The paw relaxed. Aria lay there, trapped between terror and bewilderment, as sensation slowly returned to her extremities. Her toes burned with pins and needles. Her fingers ached. But she was alive, and that seemed impossible given where she'd been 12 hours ago. "Why did you save me?" Wolves didn't do this. Even pack wolves, bound by magic and hierarchy, didn't shelter dying strangers. They killed threats, protected territory, followed their alpha's command. This wolf followed no command but its own. She finally worked up the courage to turn her head. The breath left her lungs. He was enormous. That was the first coherent thought. Easily twice the size of any pack wolf she'd ever seen, his dark fur almost black in the dim light, threaded with silver scars that told stories of violence survived. His head alone was massive, currently tucked near her shoulder, one amber eye cracked open and fixed directly on her. Watching. Assessing. The intelligence in that gaze was wrong. Too knowing. Too human for any animal. "You're not just a wolf," Aria breathed. The eye closed. Dismissive. "Or you don't want me to know," she thought. Her wolf stirred weakly inside her, still suppressed by the wolf's bane, but present enough to feel something radiating from the creature beside her. Power. Old power, thick and wild and untamed by pack bonds or alpha commands. Rogue, maybe. Or worse. Stories surfaced from her childhood, whispered tales told by the den mothers to keep pups in line. Stay within the walls. Don't wander past the boundary stones. Rogues hunt in the deadlands. Ferals who've lost their human halves. Monsters who feast on pack wolves. But this wolf had fed her body heat instead of feeding on her body. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for not letting me die." The wolf's breathing pattern didn't change, but his ear flicked toward her voice. Listening. Aria closed her eyes, exhaustion still heavy in her bones despite the sleep. The cave smelled of earth and pine and that strange smoke scent she'd noticed on the wolf's breath. Safe smells. Solid. Her mind drifted to Silvercrest. to the pack she'd never truly belonged to, the family she'd never had. Her parents had died when she was 3 rogues, they'd said, though no one ever explained the details. She'd been raised communally, passed between families who tolerated her presence but never claimed her. Charity case. Burden. Omega. Matthias had been the first to look at her differently. The Alpha's son, beautiful and golden and completely out of her league, had smiled at her during the autumn gathering, had asked her to walk with him, had made her feel, for 3 precious weeks, like maybe she was worth something after all. She'd been so desperate for belonging that she'd missed every red flag. The way he only saw her in private. The way his eyes slid past her when others were present. The way he asked careful questions about pack business, guard rotations, supply routes, the Elder Council's private meetings she sometimes overheard while cleaning the Alpha's estate. She'd thought he was interested in her mind. Her observations. She'd been such a fool. When the accusations came, when evidence appeared showing classified information leaked to the Blackwood Pack, their sworn enemies, it had Matthias's fingerprints all over it. But he'd been clever. The trail led to her. The orphan Omega with access to spaces no one paid attention to, invisible as furniture. The perfect scapegoat. Did you really think I cared about you? Matthias had whispered as the guards dragged her to the Alpha. You were useful. Now you're done. Tears burned behind Aria's closed eyelids. She'd screamed her innocence. Begged Alpha Ronan to investigate further. But Ronan had already decided, his face granite hard, grief and rage burning in his eyes. The leaked information had gotten wolves killed. His brother. 3 guards. A mother and her pup. Someone had to pay. The Omega no one would miss was the easy answer. The wolf shifted behind her, and suddenly that massive head was pushing under her chin, forcing her face up and away from the dark spiral of her thoughts. His nose, cold and wet, pressed against her cheek, and that rumble started again, deeper now, almost comforting. Aria's hand moved without permission, fingers sinking into thick fur. The wolf stilled. She waited for teeth. For violence. Instead, he pushed into her touch, a barely perceptible lean that said more. You're the strangest wolf I've ever met, she murmured, scratching behind his ear. His tail, she could just see it from the corner of her eye, thumped once against the cave floor. Despite everything, Aria felt her lips twitch. Almost a smile. Are you going to let me go eventually? Or am I your prisoner now? The amber eye opened again, fixing her with that too intelligent stare. Then, impossibly, the wolf winked. Aria's breath caught. Before she could process that, the creature rose, unfolding to his full, terrifying height, and padded to the cave entrance. He looked back once, jerked his massive head in a clear gesture. Come. You want me to follow you? Another head jerk. Impatient now. Aria sat up slowly, testing her limbs. Everything hurt, but everything worked. The wolf's bane had worn off enough that she could feel her wolf again, weak but present. She stood on shaking legs and followed the giant wolf into the gray morning, completely uncertain what she'd find. But certain, somehow, that he wouldn't let her freeze again. The wolf led her through a forest that shouldn't exist. Aria had grown up on the edges of the Deadlands. She knew what lay beyond Silvercrest's walls. Frozen wasteland. Skeletal trees. Nothing that could sustain life, let alone the dense pine forest surrounding her now, heavy with green needles and the smell of living earth. Where are we? She asked. The wolf glanced back, those amber eyes gleaming with something that might have been amusement, then continued padding forward through snow that barely reached his shoulders but swallowed her to the knees. Her legs screamed with exhaustion after 10 minutes. 20. She lost count, focusing only on putting one foot in front of the other, following the dark shape ahead. Then the trees opened up. Aria stopped dead. A cabin stood in the clearing. No, not a cabin. A house. 2 stories of weathered wood and stone, smoke curling from a chimney, warm light glowing behind shuttered windows. Impossible. There were no structures this far into the Deadlands. No one survived out here. The wolf climbed the porch steps and sat, looking at her expectantly. You live here. His tail thumped. You're definitely not a normal wolf. Before she could process further, the front door opened, and a man stepped out. Aria's world tilted. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders wrapped in a dark Henley that had seen better days. Black hair fell past his collar, shot through with silver at the temples. Scars marked his visible skin, 3 parallel lines down his neck, a jagged one across his collarbone, smaller ones scattered like constellations. But it was his eyes that froze her in place. Amber. Exact same shade as the wolf's. No, she whispered. You can't be. The man's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in those eyes. Wariness. Assessment. The same look the wolf had given her. Because they were the same. Shifter. But she hadn't seen him shift. Hadn't heard bones crack or witnessed the transformation. One moment, wolf on the porch. Next moment, man in the doorway. That meant power. Incredible power. The kind that didn't need effort or full moons or... Ethan, the man said, his voice rough with disuse, like he hadn't spoken in years. My name is Ethan. The name punched through her shock like a fist through ice. No, Aria shook her head, backing up a step. No, that's impossible. Ethan, Alpha Ethan died 7 years ago. The whole pack mourned him. There was a funeral. There was a funeral, he agreed quietly. There was no body. Her mind raced. Every wolf in the territory knew the story. Ethan Blackwood, youngest alpha in Silvercrest history, who'd challenged the corrupt council and paid for it with betrayal. They said he'd gone feral. That he'd slaughtered half his own pack before vanishing into the Deadlands. That he was either dead or too monstrous to ever return. Aria stared at the man before her, this legend wrapped in scars and silence, and felt reality shift beneath her feet. They said you murdered 12 wolves. I did. No hesitation. No excuse. They said you went feral. Lost your humanity. His jaw tightened. They said many things. Are you going to kill me too? The question hung between them, sharp as a blade. Ethan descended the porch steps slowly, moving with that same careful grace the wolf had shown. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the silver threading through his stubble, the exhaustion carved into the lines around his eyes. If I wanted you dead, he said softly, I would have left you in the snow. Fair point. Aria's wolf stirred, pushing against her skin with sudden urgency, trying to tell her something. She frowned, focusing inward, and felt. Mate. No. Mate. Her wolf screamed it with absolute certainty, throwing herself against Aria's consciousness with desperate recognition. Oh, goddess. Aria's knees wobbled. No, no, no. Ethan's nostrils flared. His eyes darkened to molten gold. You feel it. Not a question. This can't be happening. She wrapped her arms around herself. You're the exiled alpha. The monster they warn pups about. And I'm nobody. A banished omega who's wanted for treason. This is insane. Yes, he agreed. All of that is true. So what do we do? You come inside before you freeze again. We eat. We talk. His gaze held hers, intense and unwavering. Then you decide. Decide what? If you run. Ethan's voice dropped, rough with something raw and barely controlled. Or if you stay. Before she could respond, a howl split the morning, distant but clear, echoing across the frozen forest. Ethan's head snapped toward the sound, his entire body going rigid. What is that? Aria whispered. Hunters. He grabbed her arm, his grip firm but not painful. Inside. Now. Hunters? But no one comes this far. They do when they're looking for someone. He pulled her toward the cabin, urgency replacing his earlier calm. And your pack doesn't exile. They ensure. Horror washed through her. They sent wolves after me. Not wolves. Ethan shoved the door open, practically throwing her inside. Worse. Ronan's enforcers, the ones who handle permanent problems. The howl came again, closer. Aria's hands shook. They want to make sure I'm dead. They want to make sure you can't talk. Ethan locked the door, threw a heavy bolt, then moved to the windows with practiced efficiency. Whatever you supposedly did, whoever set you up, they're tying loose ends. Matthias, she breathed. He framed me. If I somehow survived and made it back, you could expose him. Ethan pulled weapons from places she hadn't noticed, knives, a crossbow, things that gleamed silver. How many enforcers does Ronan keep? 4. Maybe 5. 6. His voice was grim. I can smell them. And they're not stopping to confirm you're dead. They're coming in. Aria's wolf snarled, finally strong enough to push some strength into her limbs. I can fight. You can barely stand. Ethan turned to her, and for the first time, she saw something fierce and possessive burn in his gaze. Your wolf recognizes me, which means mine is losing its mind trying to protect you. So you're going to hide, and I'm going to handle this. I won't let you. They'll kill you on sight. He crossed to her in 2 strides, cupping her face with surprising gentleness. I've been dead for 7 years. What's a few more bodies to my name? The howls erupted into snarls, multiple voices, savage and close. Ethan's thumbs brushed her cheekbones once, achingly soft. Then he pushed her toward a trapdoor she hadn't seen in the floor. Stay quiet. Stay hidden. No matter what you hear. Ethan. Please. The word sounded like it cost him everything. Let me keep you alive. The door exploded inward. And Aria got her first glimpse of the monster they'd warned her about as Ethan shifted faster than thought, bigger than physics should allow, into the giant wolf that had saved her from the snow. The wolf that now stood between her and 6 wolves who'd come to finish the job her pack had started. Aria didn't hide. She couldn't, not when the first enforcer lunged and Ethan met him midair with a collision that shook the cabin walls. Not when blood sprayed across the wooden floor, hot and copper-sharp. Not when her mate was fighting 6-1 against wolves trained specifically to kill. She shifted. The wolf's bane had weakened enough, and adrenaline did the rest. Her bones cracked and reformed, fur rippling across skin as her smaller russet wolf burst forward. Not impressive. Not particularly strong. But hers, and filled with rage at everything that had been done to her. An enforcer broke past Ethan's guard, heading for the trapdoor, heading for where she was supposed to be hiding. Aria hit him from the side. She wasn't trained for combat. Omegas weren't taught to fight in Silvercrest, they were taught to submit, to serve, to disappear. But desperation made her vicious. Her teeth found his throat, and she bit down, tasting blood and victory and savage satisfaction when he yelped and twisted away. Ethan's roar shook the cabin. He moved like violence given form, faster than anything his size should move, hitting with force that sent wolves crashing through furniture. One enforcer tried to flank him. Ethan's massive jaws closed around his spine, shook once, and dropped a corpse. 2 down. 4 to go. The largest enforcer, scarred and battle-hardened, circled Ethan with calculated patience. Pack training. Strategic thinking. He feinted left, drew Ethan's attention, while another dove for his exposed flank. They'd fought together before. Knew each other's movements. Ethan twisted impossibly fast, but not fast enough. Teeth sank into his shoulder, tore through muscle. He snarled, throwing the attacker off, but blood now matted his dark fur. Aria felt his pain like it was her own, the mate bond flaring hot and desperate between them. No. She launched herself at the scarred enforcer, aiming for his eyes. He was bigger, stronger, more experienced, but she was small and fast and absolutely done being anyone's victim. Her claws raked across his muzzle. He snapped at her, catching her shoulder, and agony exploded through her body. Then Ethan was there, crashing into the enforcer with the force of an avalanche, jaws closing around his skull. The crack was sickening. Final. 3 down. The remaining 3 wolves exchanged glances, quick, uncertain. This wasn't going according to plan. The exiled Alpha was supposed to be weakened. Feral. Not this controlled, lethal force that had just killed half their unit in under 2 minutes. They bolted. Ethan chased. No, don't. Aria wanted to scream, but wolf throats couldn't form words. It's a trap. They're leading you away from me. The cabin door hung crooked on its hinges. Through it, she heard snarls, yelps, the sounds of pursuit through snow and forest. Then silence. Terrible, stretching silence. Aria shifted back to human, gasping as her wounds reformed, the shoulder bite now a bleeding gash across pale skin. Her legs shook. The cabin looked like an abattoir, 3 dead wolves cooling on the floor, furniture destroyed, walls splattered with evidence of violence. "Ethan," she called. Nothing. "Ethan." The door creaked. Relief flooded her for exactly 2 seconds, until she saw what stepped through. Not Ethan. A wolf she recognized, Cade, one of Ronan's personal guards. The one who'd stood silent during her trial, who'd escorted her to the border walls. The one who'd whispered, "I'm sorry," when no one else could hear. He shifted smoothly, standing naked and blood-spattered in the doorway, holding something in his hand. A dart gun. "Don't scream," Cade said quietly. "I'm not here to kill you." "Then why are you here?" Aria backed toward the fireplace, searching for a weapon. "To warn you." He didn't lower the gun, but he didn't aim it either. "This wasn't Ronan's order. He thinks you're dead. This was Matthias. He sent us without his father's knowledge." Her stomach dropped. "Why?" "Because you're not the only one he set up." Cade's jaw tightened. "My sister was accused of theft last month. Banished. She didn't survive the first night. I didn't question it then. But when you were exiled for treason, and I saw the evidence," he shook his head. "It was too perfect. Too convenient." "How many?" Aria's voice cracked. "How many has he framed?" 7 that I know of. All Omegas or low ranks. All dead." Cade's eyes burned with quiet fury. "He's consolidating power, eliminating anyone who might see through his games. When Ronan steps down next year, Matthias will be Alpha. And anyone who could threaten that disappears." "Yes." Aria's mind raced. 7 wolves. 7 lives destroyed because of one ambitious bastard's political maneuvering. "Why tell me?" "Because I can't stop him alone." Cade finally lowered the gun. "But maybe you can." "I'm exiled. Powerless. You're alive." His gaze flicked to the dead enforcers. "And you've somehow allied with the one wolf Matthias actually fears." Before Aria could respond, a growl rumbled from outside, low, warning, absolutely deadly. Ethan's massive form filled the doorway behind Cade, amber eyes locked on the enforcer who dared enter his territory, who stood too close to his mate with a weapon in hand. "Wait." Aria jumped between them. He's helping us." Ethan didn't move, every muscle coiled to strike. Cade raised both hands slowly. "I killed the other 2, he said calmly. "Made it look like they fell in the chase." As far as Matthias knows, the mission succeeded, all 6 enforcers dead, target eliminated. The growl didn't stop, but Ethan's ears flicked forward. "Listening." "He's telling the truth," Aria said, keeping her voice steady. "About Matthias. About the others." Slowly, so slowly, Ethan shifted back to human. Blood ran from a dozen wounds across his chest and arms, but he stood like none of them existed, his focus entirely on Cade. "You have 30 seconds, Ethan said. "Speak." Cade did, fast, efficient, laying out everything. Matthias's careful manipulation. The false evidence planted on 7 wolves. His plan to ascend as Alpha with a perfectly clean pack. No one left who remembered the Omegas who'd been discarded. "He's building a foundation on corpses," Cade finished. "And Ronan doesn't see it because Matthias is brilliant at being exactly what his father wants to see." "Why betray him now?" Ethan asked. "Because my sister deserved better." "Because they all did." Cade met his eyes steadily. "And because when I looked at Aria being dragged to exile, I saw my sister's face and did nothing. I won't make that mistake twice. Silence stretched. Then Ethan moved quick as a snake and gripped Cade's shoulder. Not attacking. Testing. His nostrils flared, breathing in scent, reading truth the way only alphas could. Finally, he released him. You'll be killed if they discover your betrayal. I know. You can't go back. I know. Ethan looked at Aria, something unreadable in his expression. Then back to Cade. There's a supply cabin 2 miles northeast. Food, clothes, medical supplies. Stay there until I send word. Cade nodded once, grateful, and shifted. His gray wolf disappeared into the forest without another sound, leaving Aria alone with her mate, surrounded by bodies and blood and the weight of impossible decisions. We can't run, she said quietly. Can we? Ethan crossed to her, his hands gentle as they turned her shoulder, examining the wound. No, he agreed. We can't. Matthias won't stop. If he thinks I might have survived, he'll come himself next time. Ethan's thumb traced the edge of her injury, careful not to hurt. Or send an army. Then we go back. The words felt insane even as she spoke them. We expose him. Clear my name. Stop him before he kills anyone else. They'll execute you on sight. Then we make sure they don't see me until I'm standing in front of the entire pack with proof. Ethan's hands stilled. His amber eyes searched hers, looking for something: doubt, maybe, or fear. He found only determination. You barely know me, he said softly. The mate bond is pulling at you, but you don't owe me. This isn't about owing. Aria covered his hands with hers. This is about 7 wolves who died because no one fought back. This is about a murderer becoming alpha. And yes, she held his gaze. This is about not losing my mate when I only just found him. Something cracked in Ethan's expression. Something that might have been hope, buried under years of isolation and guilt. I killed 12 wolves, he said, voice rough. Everything they said about me. Was it true? Some of it. Then tell me. She stepped closer. All of it. Because if we're doing this, if we're taking down Matthias and walking back into Silvercrest, I need to know who I'm walking beside. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and quiet. Inside, Ethan began to speak. And Aria learned the truth about the monster they'd made him become. Aria didn't hide. She couldn't, not when the first enforcer lunged and Ethan met him midair with a collision that shook the cabin walls. Not when blood sprayed across the wooden floor, hot and copper-sharp. Not when her mate was fighting 6-1 against wolves trained specifically to kill. She shifted. The wolfsbane had weakened enough, and adrenaline did the rest. Her bones cracked and reformed, fur rippling across skin as her smaller russet wolf burst forward. Not impressive. Not particularly strong. But hers, and filled with rage at everything that had been done to her. An enforcer broke past Ethan's guard, heading for the trapdoor, heading for where she was supposed to be hiding. Aria hit him from the side. She wasn't trained for combat. Omegas weren't taught to fight in Silvercrest, they were taught to submit, to serve, to disappear. But desperation made her vicious. Her teeth found his throat, and she bit down, tasting blood and victory and savage satisfaction when he yelped and twisted away. Ethan's roar shook the cabin. He moved like violence given form, faster than anything his size should move, hitting with force that sent wolves crashing through furniture. One enforcer tried to flank him. Ethan's massive jaws closed around his spine, shook once, and dropped a corpse. 2 down. 4 to go. The largest enforcer, scarred and battle-hardened, circled Ethan with calculated patience. Pack training. Strategic thinking. He feinted left, drew Ethan's attention, while another dove for his exposed flank. They'd fought together before. Knew each other's movements. Ethan twisted impossibly fast, but not fast enough. Teeth sank into his shoulder, tore through muscle. He snarled, throwing the attacker off, but blood now matted his dark fur. Aria felt his pain like it was her own, the mate bond flaring hot and desperate between them. No. She launched herself at the scarred enforcer, aiming for his eyes. He was bigger, stronger, more experienced, but she was small and fast and absolutely done being anyone's victim. Her claws raked across his muzzle. He snapped at her, catching her shoulder, and agony exploded through her body. Then Ethan was there, crashing into the enforcer with the force of an avalanche, jaws closing around his skull. The crack was sickening. Final. 3 down. The remaining 3 wolves exchanged glances, quick, uncertain. This wasn't going according to plan. The exiled alpha was supposed to be weakened. Feral. Not this controlled, lethal force that had just killed half their unit in under 2 minutes. They bolted. Ethan chased. No, don't. Aria wanted to scream, but wolf throats couldn't form words. It's a trap. They're leading you away from me. The cabin door hung crooked on its hinges. Through it, she heard snarls, yelps, the sounds of pursuit through snow and forest. Then silence. Terrible, stretching silence. Aria shifted back to human, gasping as her wounds reformed, the shoulder bite now a bleeding gash across pale skin. Her legs shook. The cabin looked like an abattoir, 3 dead wolves cooling on the floor, furniture destroyed, walls splattered with evidence of violence. Ethan, she called. Nothing. Ethan. The door creaked. Relief flooded her for exactly 2 seconds until she saw what stepped through. Not Ethan. A wolf she recognized, Cade, one of Ronan's personal guards. The one who'd stood silent during her trial, who'd escorted her to the border walls. The one who'd whispered, "I'm sorry," when no one else could hear. He shifted smoothly, standing naked and blood-spattered in the doorway, holding something in his hand. A dart gun. Don't scream, Cade said quietly. I'm not here to kill you. Then why are you here? Aria backed toward the fireplace, searching for a weapon. To warn you. He didn't lower the gun, but he didn't aim it either. This wasn't Ronan's order. He thinks you're dead. This was Matthias. He sent us without his father's knowledge. Her stomach dropped. Why? Because you're not the only one he set up. Cade's jaw tightened. My sister was accused of theft last month. Banished. She didn't survive the first night. I didn't question it then. But when you were exiled for treason, and I saw the evidence, he shook his head. It was too perfect. Too convenient. How many? Aria's voice cracked. How many has he framed? 7 that I know of. All Omegas or low ranks. All dead. Cade's eyes burned with quiet fury. He's consolidating power, eliminating anyone who might see through his games. When Ronan steps down next year, Matthias will be Alpha. And anyone who could threaten that disappears. Yes. Aria's mind raced. 7 wolves. 7 lives destroyed because of one ambitious bastard's political maneuvering. Why tell me? Because I can't stop him alone. Cade finally lowered the gun. But maybe you can. I'm exiled. Powerless. You're alive. His gaze flicked to the dead enforcers. And you've somehow allied with the one wolf Matthias actually fears. Before Aria could respond, a growl rumbled from outside, low, warning, absolutely deadly. Ethan's massive form filled the doorway behind Cade, amber eyes locked on the enforcer who dared enter his territory, who stood too close to his mate with a weapon in hand. Wait. Aria jumped between them. He's helping us. Ethan didn't move, every muscle coiled to strike. Cade raised both hands slowly. I killed the other 2, he said calmly. Made it look like they fell in the chase. As far as Matthias knows, the mission succeeded, all 6 enforcers dead, target eliminated. The growl didn't stop, but Ethan's ears flicked forward. Listening. He's telling the truth, Aria said, keeping her voice steady. About Matthias. About the others. Slowly, so slowly, Ethan shifted back to human. Blood ran from a dozen wounds across his chest and arms, but he stood like none of them existed, his focus entirely on Cade. You have 30 seconds, Ethan said. Speak. Cade did fast, efficient, laying out everything. Matthias's careful manipulation. The false evidence planted on 7 wolves. His plan to ascend as Alpha with a perfectly clean pack, no one left who remembered the Omegas who'd been discarded. He's building a foundation on corpses, Cade finished. And Ronan doesn't see it because Matthias is brilliant at being exactly what his father wants to see. Why betray him now? Ethan asked. Because my sister deserved better. Because they all did. Cade met his eyes steadily. And because when I looked at Aria being dragged to exile, I saw my sister's face and did nothing. I won't make that mistake twice. Silence stretched. Then Ethan moved quick as a snake and gripped Cade's shoulder. Not attacking. Testing. His nostrils flared, breathing in scent, reading truth the way only alphas could. Finally, he released him. You'll be killed if they discover your betrayal. I know. You can't go back. I know. Ethan looked at Aria, something unreadable in his expression. Then back to Cade. There's a supply cabin 2 miles northeast. Food. Clothes. Medical supplies. Stay there until I send word. Cade nodded once, grateful, and shifted. His gray wolf disappeared into the forest without another sound, leaving Aria alone with her mate, surrounded by bodies and blood and the weight of impossible decisions. We can't run, she said quietly. Can we? Ethan crossed to her, his hands gentle as they turned her shoulder, examining the wound. No, he agreed. We can't. Matthias won't stop. If he thinks I might have survived, he'll come himself next time. Ethan's thumb traced the edge of her injury, careful not to hurt. Or send an army. Then we go back. The words felt insane even as she spoke them. We expose him. Clear my name. Stop him before he kills anyone else. They'll execute you on sight. Then we make sure they don't see me until I'm standing in front of the entire pack with proof. Ethan's hands stilled. His amber eyes searched hers, looking for something: doubt, maybe, or fear. He found only determination. You barely know me, he said softly. The mate bond is pulling at you, but you don't owe me. This isn't about owing. Aria covered his hands with hers. This is about 7 wolves who died because no one fought back. This is about a murderer becoming alpha. And yes, she held his gaze. This is about not losing my mate when I only just found him. Something cracked in Ethan's expression. Something that might have been hope, buried under years of isolation and guilt. I killed 12 wolves, he said, voice rough. Everything they said about me. Was it true? Some of it. Then tell me. She stepped closer. All of it. Because if we're doing this, if we're taking down Matthias and walking back into Silvercrest, I need to know who I'm walking beside. Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and quiet. Inside, Ethan began to speak. And Aria learned the truth about the monster they'd made him become. They sat by the fire while Ethan's wounds slowly healed, the mate bond accelerating the process in ways that made Aria's wolf purr with satisfaction. He'd pulled on clean clothes, his wet hair tied back, and for the first time, she saw him as something other than the legend, just a man carrying the weight of impossible choices. The council was corrupt, Ethan began, staring into the flames. Everyone knew it. They'd been skimming territory tributes for years, making deals with rival packs, selling information to hunters. But they had Ronan's father, the old alpha, in their pocket. He was weak. Dying. They ran Silvercrest like their personal kingdom. Aria pulled a blanket tighter around herself, listening. When I became alpha at 23, I thought I could fix it. I was young. Stupid. Believed in honor and justice and all the ideals they teach you as a pup. His laugh was bitter. I started investigating. Quietly. Built a case with evidence, financial records, testimony from wolves they'd hurt, proof of their dealings with the Blackwood pack. Wait. Aria's brow furrowed. Your last name is Blackwood. Ethan's jaw tightened. Because that was my birth pack. I was traded to Silvercrest at 16 as part of a treaty arrangement. A hostage, essentially, to ensure peace between territories. He finally looked at her. The council was selling Silvercrest's secrets to my blood family, using me as the intermediary without my knowledge. Horror crept up her spine. They set you up. Brilliantly. His hands clenched. When I confronted them with the evidence, they'd already prepared their countermove. They accused me of being a spy, said I'd been working with Blackwood all along, that the evidence I'd gathered was fabricated to cover my own treason. But surely wolves who knew you believed them. The words were flat. Because the Blackwood pack attacked 3 days later. A coordinated strike that killed 17 Silvercrest wolves, including Ronan's father. And the council had proof that I'd arranged it, messages in my handwriting, meetings I'd supposedly attended, payments traced back to accounts in my name. Aria's stomach turned. They forged everything. They were very thorough. Ethan's voice dropped to something darker. Ronan was young, grieving, furious. His father had just died. He believed what the council showed him. So when they called for my execution, he agreed. But you escaped. No, Ethan met her eyes, and she saw the truth there, raw and terrible. I killed my way out. Silence pressed down like physical weight. The council sent 12 wolves to execute me in my cell, he continued. Good wolves. Loyal wolves who believed they were killing a traitor. I could have surrendered. Let them end it. But my wolf, he swallowed hard. My wolf wouldn't accept death for crimes I didn't commit. So I fought. And when I shifted in that cell, something broke inside me. You went feral. Partially. His hands trembled before he fisted them. I retained enough humanity to run instead of slaughtering everyone. But those 12 wolves? I killed them all. Tore through them like paper because I was bigger, stronger, and absolutely out of control. He looked away. Their families still live in Silvercrest. Their mates. Their children. Aria's heart cracked. Ethan. I became the monster they accused me of being. Proved the council right in the worst possible way. His voice roughened. So I ran to the Deadlands. Stayed in wolf form for months because the human half couldn't handle what I'd done. And when I finally shifted back, I built this cabin and decided I'd die here. Alone. Away from anyone else I could hurt. For 7 years. For 7 years. Aria processed this, turning it over in her mind. The pieces didn't quite fit. If the council was corrupt, what happened to them? Something dangerous flickered in Ethan's expression. 3 died in the Blackwood attack, convenient timing. 2 died of natural causes within a year. The last one, Elder Marcus, is still alive. Still whispering in Ronan's ear. And Matthias? Was 15 when I was exiled. Just a pup. Ethan's eyes narrowed. But if he learned from Marcus, learned how to manipulate evidence and eliminate threats, he's finishing what the council started. Aria stood, pacing, consolidating power, removing anyone who might question him, building his path to becoming alpha on the same foundation of lies and corpses. Which means Marcus is still pulling strings. They stared at each other as the implications crystallized. We're not just fighting Matthias, Aria said slowly. We're fighting the same corruption that destroyed you. It never ended. It just found a new face. Ethan rose, crossing to her. If we go back, if we try to expose this, they'll use every weapon they have. They'll paint you as my accomplice. Say I corrupted you, turned you against your pack. Let them. Aria lifted her chin. I'm already dead according to them. What else can they take? Your life. Your wolf. Any chance at peace. I'll never have peace knowing Matthias is killing innocent wolves. Her voice hardened. And neither will you. You've been hiding for 7 years, Ethan. Punishing yourself for defending your life against an execution you didn't deserve. I killed 12 wolves. Who were trying to murder you for crimes you didn't commit. She grabbed his arms. Yes, you killed them. Yes, it's terrible. But you're not the monster here. The council was. Marcus is. Matthias is. Ethan's breathing roughened. Even if we succeed, even if we prove everything, those 12 wolves don't come back. Their families don't get closure. Ronan doesn't get his father back. No, Aria agreed softly. They don't. But maybe we can stop it from happening to anyone else. His hands came up to cup her face, thumbs brushing her cheekbones with devastating gentleness. You barely know me, and you're willing to risk everything. The mate bond. Isn't this? He cut her off. The bond makes us attracted, makes us want to protect each other. But this believing in me, fighting beside me, that's you, Aria. That's your choice. She leaned into his touch, feeling the truth of it. The bond hummed between them, warm and right, but this decision came from deeper than magic. Then I choose this, she said. I choose you. I choose fighting back. Ethan's eyes blazed gold. Then he kissed her. Not gentle, not tentative. A claiming kiss that tasted of desperation and hope and 7 years of isolation finally breaking. Aria gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pressed against her lower back, pulling her closer. The mate bond sang. She felt his wolf reaching for hers, felt the connection snap into place with an almost audible click. Her omega wolf, small and underestimated her whole life, rose to meet his alpha with perfect certainty. Mine, they both growled. Ours. Finally, when they broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. If we do this, he said quietly, we do it smart. No rushing in. We gather evidence, build allies, wait for the perfect moment. Cade can help. He's on the inside. And he's one wolf against an entire pack command structure. Ethan's mind was already working, she could see it. We need more. We need proof that even Ronin can't ignore. Marcus. Aria's eyes widened. If he's been manipulating things for years, there must be evidence. Financial records. Communications. Something. His estate is inside Silvercrest territory. Then we get inside. They'll kill you on sight. A slow smile curved Aria's lips. Not if they don't recognize me. Ethan pulled back, studying her. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that omegas are invisible. We're furniture. Background noise. Her smile sharpened. And I spent 2 years cleaning Marcus's estate. I know every room, every hiding place, every secret entrance he doesn't think anyone notices. You want to infiltrate. During the winter gathering. 3 weeks from now. Aria's mind raced. Every pack within 2 territories attends. It's chaos. Hundreds of wolves. Security focused on external threats, not internal ones. You'd need a different scent. Different appearance. I can cut my hair. Dye it. Roll in mountain ash to mask my scent. She met his gaze. I can do this, Ethan. He was quiet for a long moment, amber eyes searching hers. Then, we can do this. Together. You can't come into Silvercrest. I can get close. Stay in the forest. Be ready if you need extraction. His jaw set. You're not doing this alone. Ethan. We're mates, Aria. Which means where you go, I follow. Even into the territory that wants me dead. The absolute certainty in his voice made something warm bloom in her chest. 3 weeks to plan, she said. 3 weeks to prepare. And then we burn their lies to the ground. Ethan's smile was sharp and feral and absolutely dangerous. And then we burn their lies to the ground. Outside, the snow fell heavier, blanketing the world in white. Inside, 2 exiled wolves began planning the impossible, walking back into the pack that had tried to kill them and exposing the rot at its core. But neither of them noticed the shadow that detached from the tree line, a gray wolf who'd heard more than he should have. Cade ran through the forest, heart pounding, mind racing. Because Matthias needed to know his loose ends were still alive. And Cade had just discovered something far more valuable than information. He discovered leverage that would secure his sister's memory and his own survival. Even if it meant betraying the only wolves who'd shown him mercy. 2 weeks passed in careful preparation. Aria trained with Ethan every day, learning to fight properly, not just the desperate flailing that had saved her during the enforcer attack. He was patient but demanding, pushing her until her muscles screamed and her wolf snarled with exhaustion. Again, he'd say, and she'd rise from the snow and attack once more. At night, they planned. Mapping Marcus's estate from memory, identifying where documents might be hidden, plotting escape routes. And when exhaustion finally claimed them, they'd collapse into Ethan's bed, sometimes just sleeping, other times exploring the mate bond with hands and mouths and whispered promises. Aria had never felt so whole, which should have been her first warning that something was about to shatter. The attack came on the morning they were supposed to leave for Silvercrest. Aria was checking her pack, hair dye, ash powder, clean clothes, when Ethan went rigid at the window. "We have company." She crossed to him, looked out, and felt ice flood her veins. Wolves. At least 30 of them, surrounding the cabin in a perfect perimeter. Not enforcers this time. Elite guards, wearing Silvercrest's silver collars, moving with military precision. And at their center, mounted on a massive black destrier, sat Matthias. He'd grown in the weeks since her exile, or maybe she'd just never seen him clearly before. His golden hair was pulled back severely, emphasizing the cruel beauty of his features. Those cold blue eyes swept the cabin like he could see through the walls. "Aria," he called, his voice carrying across the snow. "I know you're in there. And I know who you're with." Her stomach dropped. "Cade," Ethan said quietly, his voice utterly emotionless. He told them. No, he wouldn't. He did. Ethan was already moving, gathering weapons, his face a mask of grim acceptance. Which means this was never about justice for his sister. It was about survival. Aria's world tilted. She'd believed Cade. Trusted him. Let him into their plans. "Come out peacefully," Matthias continued, "and I'll make your deaths quick. Refuse, and I'll burn the cabin with you inside. You have 5 minutes to decide." Ethan checked his crossbow, his movements mechanical. "The root cellar has a tunnel. Leads half a mile north to a cave system. You can. I'm not leaving you." "Aria." "No," she grabbed his arm. "We're mates. We fight together or we die together. Those are the only options." Something broke in his expression, pain and pride and terrible resignation. "If I surrender, maybe he'll let you live." "He won't." She knew it with absolute certainty. "I'm a loose end. And Matthias doesn't leave loose ends." For minutes, Matthias called. Ethan pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. "I'm sorry. I should have kept you safe. Should have. You gave me 3 weeks of being more than an omega nobody wanted. 3 weeks of being seen." Aria's voice cracked. "Don't you dare apologize for that." He kissed her hard and desperate and tasting of goodbye. Then the windows exploded inward. Not wolves. Canisters, spewing thick silver smoke that burned like acid on skin and in lungs. Wolfsbane concentrate, the kind that paralyzed shifters, made transformation impossible. Aria hit the floor, choking, eyes streaming. She heard Ethan snarl, heard furniture crash, heard the door splinter as guards poured in wearing masks against the smoke. She tried to shift. Couldn't. Her wolf whimpered and retreated, driven back by the poison in the air. Hands grabbed her, dragged her outside into clean air that felt like knives in her damaged lungs. She struggled weakly, but the wolfsbane had done its job. Ethan fought like a demon. Even human, even poisoned, he dropped 4 guards before they got silver chains around him. It took 8 wolves to bring him to his knees beside her in the snow. Matthias dismounted, his boots crunching as he approached. Up close, Aria could see the satisfaction in his eyes, the triumph of a predator who'd cornered his prey. "The exiled Alpha and the traitor Omega," he said pleasantly. "What a fascinating pair." "You framed me," Aria spat, tasting blood. "Killed 7 innocent wolves to cover your ambition. Prove it." Matthias crouched, his smile never wavering. "Oh wait, you can't. Because your only ally just sold you out for a full pardon and a place in my guard." The words hit like physical blows. Cade had betrayed them completely. "Why?" Aria whispered. "Because I offered him what you couldn't, a future." Matthias stood, brushing snow from his pants. His sister died because she was weak. He's not weak. He's a survivor. You're a murderer. I'm a visionary. Matthias's eyes hardened. Silvercrest was rotting from within, corrupt elders, weak omegas, wolves clinging to outdated honor codes. I'm building something better. Stronger. And I won't let ghosts and damaged goods stand in my way. Ethan lunged despite the chains, got 3 feet before guards slammed him back down. Blood ran from his mouth, but his eyes burned pure fury. Kill me, Ethan growled. Let her go. She's no threat to you. She's a witness. Matthias gestured, and a guard pressed a silver blade to Aria's throat. And you're a cautionary tale. My father believes you're both dead already. Matthias's smile widened. I told him the enforcers succeeded weeks ago. This is off the books. A private cleaning of inconvenient truths. Horror washed through Aria. Ronan didn't even know. No one was coming. No one would question their deaths because everyone already believed they were gone. I'll make you a deal, Matthias said suddenly, looking at Ethan. Kneel. Accept your crimes. Beg forgiveness for the 12 wolves you murdered. Do that, and I'll let her live. Collar her as a servant, but alive. Don't, Aria gasped. Don't you dare. Submit to me as alpha, Matthias continued, and your mate survives. Ethan's entire body shook, rage and desperation warring across his face. She felt his wolf through the bond, screaming to protect her, willing to endure anything if it meant she lived. Ethan, no. I submit. The words tore from him like flesh from bone. I accept your authority as alpha. I beg forgiveness for my crimes. Just don't hurt her. Aria sobbed. No, you can't. Matthias laughed. How touching. The monster has a heart after all. He nodded to the guards. Kill him. You said. I lied. Matthias's smile was poison. Did you really think I'd let either of you live? I just wanted to see the great Ethan Blackwood break first. The guard raised his blade. And Aria did the only thing she could think of. She screamed. Not words. Not a plea. A howl, pure, desperate, carrying across the frozen forest with every ounce of power her Omega Wolf possessed. Help. Betrayal. Murder. It was a distress call older than pack law, one that demanded response from any wolf who heard it. The kind that couldn't be ignored without violating the most fundamental bonds of their kind. Matthias backhanded her. Shut her up. Answering howls erupted from the forest. Not 1. Not 10. Dozens. The guards froze, confusion rippling through their ranks. Matthias's head snapped toward the sound, his confident mask cracking. What is that? One guard whispered. I don't. The first wolf burst from the tree line. Gray and battle-scarred, running full speed toward the cabin. Cade. But he wasn't attacking Aria and Ethan. He hit the guard holding Aria's chain, teeth finding his throat. Blood sprayed. The silver blade fell harmlessly into snow. No! Cade's voice rang out as he shifted mid-stride. Get them out. More wolves poured from the forest, rogues, from the look of them, mixed breeds and lone wolves who'd answered the distress call. Not many. Maybe 20 against 30 guards. But enough to create chaos. Enough for Ethan to break his weakened chains and shift, smaller than usual, still affected by wolfsbane, but fast. He grabbed Aria by the scruff and ran. Stop them. Matthias roared. I want them dead. I want. His words cut off as Cade tackled him into the snow. Aria looked back once as Ethan carried her into the forest. Saw Cade and Matthias locked in combat, saw guards torn between pursuing them and protecting their future alpha, saw the cabin, their sanctuary, burning as someone set it ablaze. Then the trees swallowed them, and there was only running. Ethan pushed until they were miles away, until both of them collapsed in a ravine, sides heaving. He shifted back, pulled her against him, and they held each other while the sound of distant battle faded. Cade, Aria gasped. He came back. He saved us. But why? After betraying. Maybe he didn't. Ethan's voice was rough. Maybe he fed Matthias just enough truth to get close, to be there when it mattered. Or maybe Cade had sold them out and changed his mind at the last second. They'd never know, because neither of them could go back to find out. Aria felt Ethan's heart pounding against her cheek, felt the mate bond stretched thin but holding. They were alive. Together. But they'd lost everything, their plan, their evidence, their chance to expose Matthias. And now he knew they were alive. Now he'd hunt them forever. "What do we do?" she whispered. Ethan's arms tightened around her. "We survive. We adapt. We find another way. There is no other way. We can't get into Silvercrest now." "Can't. Then we don't go to Silvercrest." His voice hardened with new determination. "We go to the one place Matthias can't follow. The one pack that might actually listen." Aria pulled back, staring at him. "Your birth pack. Blackwood territory." Ethan nodded slowly. "My brother is Alpha now. We were close once, before the treaty separated us. If anyone can help us. You were accused of betraying Silvercrest to Blackwood. They'll think." "I know." His jaw set. "It's a desperate play. But we're desperate, and I'm out of safe options." They looked at each other in the cold morning light, two broken wolves with nowhere left to run but toward the one territory that might kill them on sight. Or might give them the army they needed to take down a murderer. "Together," Aria said finally. "Together," Ethan agreed. And they rose, two ghosts everyone believed were dead, and began the long journey to Blackwood Packlands. Neither of them saw the figure watching from the ridge above, a gray wolf with blood on his muzzle and guilt in his eyes, making sure they escaped before turning back toward the battle he might not survive. Cade had chosen his side. Now he'd live or die with the consequences. The Blackwood territory border was marked by ancient standing stones that hummed with old magic, ward markers that would alert the pack the moment they crossed. Aria and Ethan stood in the shadow of those stones for a full minute, neither moving. "Last chance to run," Ethan said quietly. "We crossed this line, there's no taking it back. There's nowhere left to run to." Aria laced her fingers through his. "Your brother, will he remember you? Luca?" A complicated expression crossed Ethan's face. "He was 12 when I left. 15 when they accused me of betraying Silvercrest to him. If he believed those lies, then we convince him otherwise. Or we die trying." "Together," Aria said firmly. Ethan squeezed her hand once, then stepped across the boundary. The stones flared blue-white, magic crackling through the air like lightning. Somewhere deep in the forest, Aria heard howls rising, the pack alerting to intruders. They didn't have to wait long. Wolves materialized from the trees, 8 of them, moving in perfect formation. Large, well-trained, wearing leather harnesses marked with the Blackwood crest. They circled the 2 refugees, hackles raised, growls rumbling. Then a 9th wolf emerged. Massive, nearly Ethan's size, with fur the color of midnight and eyes like molten copper. He moved with the unmistakable authority of an alpha, confident, powerful, assessing. The wolf shifted mid-stride, and a man stood before them. He could have been Ethan's reflection, aged down by 5 years. Same sharp features, same broad shoulders, but where Ethan carried scars and weariness, this man radiated vital strength. His copper eyes fixed on Ethan with an expression Aria couldn't read. "Hello, brother," Luca said softly. Ethan's throat worked. "Hello, Luca. They told me you were dead." "I was. In every way that mattered." Luca's gaze shifted to Aria, assessing. "And you brought a Silvercrest wolf into my territory." "I brought my mate." Ethan's voice hardened. "Who was framed and exiled, just like I was. We need sanctuary." "You need more than sanctuary." Luca moved closer, circling them like he was reading a story written on their skin. "You're injured. Poisoned with wolfsbane. Running from something big enough to terrify you." He stopped in front of Ethan. "What happened?" So they told him. Everything, the corruption, the council, Ethan's exile, Aria's framing, Matthias's murders, the attack on the cabin. Luca listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each revelation. When they finished, silence stretched for a long moment. Then Luca laughed, sharp and bitter. Do you know what Silvercrest accused you of 7 years ago? He looked at Ethan. They said you arranged an attack that killed 17 wolves, including their alpha. They said I helped you. That we coordinated the assault together. Ethan went rigid. What? I was 17, barely in control of my first full shift. But Silvercrest's council sent envoys claiming I'd conspired with my exiled brother to commit mass murder. Luca's jaw tightened. It nearly started a war. Only reason it didn't was because my father, rest his soul, demanded proof. They couldn't provide any. Because it was all fabricated, Aria breathed. Obviously. Luca's eyes flashed. But the damage was done. Trade agreements collapsed. Border skirmishes increased. Pack relations that took decades to build crumbled overnight. He focused on Ethan. I've spent 7 years cleaning up the mess your council created. 7 years wondering if my brother was actually a monster or just another victim of Silvercrest's poison. I didn't know, Ethan said hoarsely. I swear, Luca, I never would have. I know. Luca's expression softened fractionally. Because you're here. Because you ran away from Silvercrest when it happened, not toward me. If you'd actually been conspiring with Blackwood, you'd have crossed this border 7 years ago. Relief flooded Ethan's face. But, Luca continued, that doesn't solve your current problem. You're asking me to believe that Silvercrest's next alpha is a murderer. That he's killed at least 7 wolves and is consolidating power through a conspiracy involving a corrupt elder. He crossed his arms. That's a significant accusation to make without proof. We had proof, Aria said desperately. A plan to get evidence from Elder Marcus's estate. But Matthias found us before we could execute it. Because someone betrayed you. We thought so. But maybe, she exchanged glances with Ethan. Maybe Cade was playing a longer game. This enforcer who supposedly sold you out, then saved you? Luca's eyebrow rose. Convenient. Or strategic, Ethan countered. If he needed to get close to Matthias, to learn his plans. Then he's either a brilliant double agent or an opportunistic survivor. Luca shook his head. Either way, you can't count on him. We're not counting on anyone, Aria said quietly. Except each other. And she took a breath. Maybe you, if you're willing. Luca studied them for a long moment, something calculating behind his copper eyes. The winter gathering is in 1 week, he said finally. Ethan blinked. What? The annual winter gathering. Every pack within 3 territories attends, including Silvercrest. Including Matthias, who'll be there representing his father while Ronan deals with some border dispute. Convenient timing that. Luca's smile was sharp. And Blackwood was invited, as we are every year. Aria's heart began to race. You're saying? I'm saying that if you want to expose Matthias, doing it in front of witnesses from a dozen packs is your best chance. Luca looked at Ethan. And if my brother is telling the truth, if Silvercrest's council really did frame him and nearly start a war, then I have my own scores to settle. You'd help us? Ethan's voice cracked with disbelief. I'd help myself. Luca's expression hardened. Silvercrest accused me of conspiracy. Damaged my pack's reputation. Cost us alliances and trade. If I can prove their leadership is corrupt, that they've been operating on lies for 7 years, that's vindication for Blackwood. It was political. Calculated. But Aria didn't care about his motivations as long as he helped. What's the plan? She asked. Luca's smile widened. You wanted to infiltrate Marcus's estate? The winter gathering is held on neutral ground, but the elders always arrive early and stay in the host territory's guest quarters. Which means Marcus will be there, away from his usual security, surrounded by wolves from multiple packs. Making him vulnerable, Ethan said slowly. And making any accidents much harder to trace back to us. Luca gestured toward his guards. I'll provide you with Blackwood identities, papers, clothing. You'll attend as part of my delegation. Matthias will recognize us, Aria protested. Will he? Luca circled her, assessing. You're small. Forgettable as an Omega, no offense. Different hair color, different scent, different pack markers? You could be anyone. His gaze shifted to Ethan. You're harder. That face is recognizable even under disguise. Then I stay back, Ethan said immediately. Provide support from. No, Luca cut him off. You stay in the Blackwood quarters with my personal guard. Hidden, but close if things go wrong. He looked at Aria. Can you get into Marcus's rooms alone? Terror and determination warred in her chest. Yes. Can you find evidence that will convince a gathering of alphas? I cleaned his estate for 2 years. I know where he keeps his secrets. Luca nodded slowly. Then we have a plan. Risky as hell, but possible. He looked between them. 1 week to prepare. I'll have my people train you, teach you Blackwood customs, make you convincing. But understand this, if you fail, if you're caught, Blackwood will disavow any knowledge of you. I can't risk my pack for a gamble. Understood, Ethan said. And if you succeed, if you expose Matthias and Marcus, Silvercrest will implode. There will be a power vacuum. Chaos. Possibly civil war. Luca's eyes glinted. Are you prepared for that? Aria thought of the 7 wolves who'd died. Of Cade's sister. Of her own near death in the snow. Of every Omega and low rank who'd been invisible and disposable to wolves like Matthias. Yes, she said firmly. Because the alternative is letting him become alpha. And that's not chaos, that's a death sentence for anyone he considers weak. Luca stared at her for a long moment, then smiled, genuine this time, with a hint of respect. You're tougher than you look, little Omega. I've had to be. He turned to his guards. Take them to the guest quarters. Get them fed, healed, and clothed. And someone fetch Theo. I want our best intelligence wolf briefing them on Marcus's known associates and vulnerabilities. The guards moved to comply, their earlier hostility replaced with neutral professionalism. Luca caught Ethan's arm as they turned to leave. I don't know if you're the brother I remember, he said quietly. 7 years is a long time. People change. But his grip tightened. I'm glad you're not dead. And I'm glad you came home. Ethan's eyes shone. Thank you, Luca. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when we survive this insanity. They followed the guards deeper into Blackwood territory, toward a compound that rose from the forest like something out of legend, all dark wood and stone, built to weather centuries. Aria felt Ethan's hand find hers, felt the mate bond pulse with renewed hope. They had an ally. A plan. A chance. It wasn't much. But it was infinitely more than they'd had 12 hours ago when the cabin burned. 1 week, she murmured. 1 week, Ethan agreed. And somewhere in Silvercrest territory, Matthias paced his rooms and plotted, unaware that the ghosts he'd tried to kill were gathering an army. Unaware that his carefully constructed empire was about to crumble. But Cade knew. Battered and bleeding in the dungeon where Matthias had thrown him after the battle, Cade smiled through broken teeth. Because he'd gotten a message out. And the ghosts were coming home. The winter gathering blazed with light and music, hundreds of wolves from a dozen packs mingling in the great neutral hall built generations ago for exactly this purpose. Aria moved through the crowd wearing Blackwood colors, deep purple and silver, her hair now dark brown and cut short, her scent masked with cedar oil. She was invisible. Just another low-ranking wolf in a sea of delegates. Exactly as planned. Ethan's presence hummed through the mate bond, distant but steady. He was a mile away in the Blackwood compound with Luca's personal guard, ready to move if she needed him. The separation made her wolf whine, but they'd agreed Ethan's face was too recognizable, even disguised. This infiltration had to be hers alone. Aria spotted Marcus immediately. The elder held court near the main fire, his silver hair and ornate robes marking him as someone important. Matthias stood beside him, golden and perfect, playing the role of dutiful future alpha while his father dealt with border disputes back home. Her hands clenched. Soon. Wine. A server appeared at her elbow, Theo, one of Luca's intelligence wolves, playing his part perfectly. "Thank you." She took the glass, and their fingers brushed. He palmed her a key card. "Marcus's room. 3rd floor, east wing. He'll be occupied for another hour with the opening ceremonies." She smiled blandly and moved away, sipping wine she barely tasted. The next hour was agony. She made small talk with strangers, laughed at jokes she didn't hear, all while tracking Marcus's movements. Finally, the elder excused himself from the main hall, heading toward the guest quarters with several other elders. Aria waited 5 minutes, then slipped away. The guest wing was quieter, guarded but not heavily. She'd memorized the patrol patterns Theo provided, timing her movements to the gaps. The key card worked perfectly, Marcus's door clicking open without resistance. She was inside. The room was luxurious, more suite than guest quarters, with a sitting area, bedroom, and private office. Aria headed straight for the office, her heart hammering. Where would he keep it? Not obvious. Not somewhere a casual search would find. She checked the desk first, locked drawers that yielded to the pics Theo had provided. Financial records, trade agreements, nothing incriminating. She moved to the bookshelf, running fingers along spines, checking for hidden compartments. Nothing. The bedroom, then. She rifled through his luggage, checked under the mattress, examined every surface. "Come on, Marcus. You're careful, but you're arrogant. You think you're untouchable here." Then she saw it, a small trunk beneath the window seat, warded with magic that made her skin prickle. Too elaborate for something innocent. Aria pulled out the iron powder Luca's which had given her, sprinkled it across the lock. The wards hissed and died. She opened the trunk. And found everything. Ledgers documenting years of embezzlement. Letters between Marcus and the old Blackwood Alpha, before Luca, arranging the attack that killed 17 Silvercrest wolves. Correspondence with hunters, selling pack information. And most damning, recent messages between Marcus and Matthias, outlining every wolf they'd framed, every murder they'd orchestrated. "I was right to invest in you," Marcus had written. "You have your grandfather's vision and none of his weakness. When you're Alpha, we'll reshape Silvercrest into something worthy of fear." "The Omega is handled," Matthias had replied. Cade confirmed the kill. "We're clean." Except Cade hadn't confirmed anything. He'd betrayed Matthias at the last second, giving them time to escape. Aria's hands shook as she photographed everything with the camera Theo provided. Page after page of evidence that would destroy both Marcus and Matthias. She was almost finished when she heard footsteps in the hall. No, not yet. Just a few more pages. The door opened. Aria spun, but there was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. Matthias stood in the doorway, his blue eyes widening with shock that quickly morphed into fury. "You're dead," he breathed. "I watched. You can't be." She bolted for the window. Matthias shifted mid-stride, his golden wolf crashing into her before she made it 3 steps. They went down in a tangle of limbs and fangs. Aria shifted desperately, her smaller russet wolf rolling away from his snapping jaws. "Ethan!" She screamed through the bond. "No!" Matthias's teeth caught her shoulder, tore through fur and skin. She yelped, twisting, her own jaws finding his foreleg. Not enough to stop him, but enough to make him release her. She ran. Out the door, down the hallway, Matthias thundering behind her. Wolves in the corridor scattered, shouting. Aria crashed into the main hall, 400 wolves turning to stare as a Blackwood wolf burst through with Silvercrest's heir in pursuit. "Traitor!" Matthias's voice boomed through the hall as he shifted back to human, naked and furious and pointing at Aria. "That's the Omega who leaked our secrets. Who murdered our wolves. She's infiltrated this gathering with false credentials." Aria shifted back, bleeding and gasping, holding up the camera. "Liar." Her voice cracked but carried. "I have proof. Marcus and Matthias have been murdering innocent wolves. Framing them. They arranged the attack 7 years ago that killed the Silver Crest Alpha. Chaos erupted. Alphas surged forward, shouting. Guards moved to restrain both of them. Marcus appeared from the crowd, his face a mask of concern. This is absurd, he said smoothly. That Omega was exiled for treason. She's clearly delusional. Then explain this. Luca strode into the hall, Ethan at his side, no longer hiding, no longer pretending to be dead. Wolves gasped, recognition rippling through the crowd. Ethan Blackwood, someone whispered. The exiled Alpha, who was framed by the same conspiracy that's now trying to silence this Omega. Luca's voice rang with authority. My brother came to me with accusations. I investigated. And this evidence, he took the camera from Aria, will prove everything. This is a Blackwood plot. Matthias snarled. They've hated Silvercrest for years. This is revenge for accusing my brother of conspiracy? For nearly starting a war with fabricated evidence. Luca's smile was razor-sharp. You're right. This is revenge. But it's also justice. He handed the camera to the nearest Alpha, River Pack's leader, known for her fairness. She pulled up the images, her expression darkening with each one. These are financial records, she said slowly. Evidence of embezzlement. And her eyes widened. Letters arranging the attack that killed Alpha Ronan's father. Signed by Marcus. The crowd's murmur turned ugly. Marcus's mask finally cracked. Those are fabricated. Blackwood has. 17 wolves died in that attack, another Alpha growled. Including my cousin. If you arranged it. I did what was necessary. Marcus's composure shattered completely. The old Alpha was weak. He would have destroyed Silvercrest with his softness. I saved the pack. Stunned silence. You confess. Luca's voice was deadly quiet. Marcus seemed to realize what he'd said, but it was too late. The words hung in the air, witnessed by 400 wolves from a dozen packs. The Omega deaths, River Pack's Alpha continued, scrolling through images. 7 wolves framed and exiled. Children killed. She looked at Matthias. Your handwriting is all over these messages. Matthias lunged for the camera. Ethan intercepted him midair, shifting into his massive wolf form. They collided with earth-shaking force, and for the first time, Aria saw her mate fight without holding back. It wasn't even close. Ethan was bigger, stronger, driven by 7 years of rage and the mate bond's protective fury. He had Matthias pinned in seconds, jaws around his throat, one wrong move away from killing him. Don't, Aria said quietly, limping forward. Don't make yourself a murderer for him. Ethan's eyes met hers, wild, barely controlled. She felt his wolf screaming for vengeance, for blood, for ending the threat to his mate permanently. He doesn't deserve a quick death, she continued. He deserves to face every family of every wolf he killed. To live with what he's done. Slowly, so slowly, Ethan released Matthias and stepped back. Guards from 3 different packs moved in, silver chains binding both Marcus and Matthias before they could escape. This is pack law business, River Pack's Alpha said grimly. Alpha Ronan will need to be informed. A tribunal will be called. But based on this evidence, she looked at Marcus with contempt. You're both finished. The hall erupted in conversation, wolves arguing and exclaiming and demanding answers. Luca caught Aria as her legs gave out, lowering her gently to the floor. You did it, he said, something like awe in his voice. You actually did it. Ethan shifted back and pulled her into his arms, and Aria finally let herself break, sobbing into his chest while he held her, murmuring reassurances against her hair. It's over, he whispered. It's finally over. But it wasn't. Not quite. The doors burst open and Ronan stormed in, flanked by his remaining guards. The Silvercrest Alpha looked a decade older, his face haggard. I was told. He stopped dead, staring at Ethan. At Aria. At his son in silver chains. What is the meaning of this? River Pack's Alpha approached him, holding out the camera. Alpha Ronan. I'm sorry, but you need to see this. They watched him read. watched his expression crumble as he absorbed the evidence of his elder's treachery, his son's murders, the conspiracy that had killed his father. When Ronan finally looked up, tears tracked down his weathered face. "Ethan," he said hoarsely, "I'm sorry. I should have investigated. Should have questioned. You were grieving." Ethan's voice was rough. "They used that against you. I exiled you. Tried to execute you. And you," he looked at Aria. "I sent you to die for crimes you didn't commit. You were deceived by wolves you trusted," Aria said quietly. "We all were." Ronan approached Marcus, something terrible in his eyes. "You killed my father. You framed innocent wolves. You made my son a monster." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Give me one reason I shouldn't rip your throat out right now." "Pack law," River Pax Alpha said firmly. "A tribunal. Witnesses from all packs. Let them be judged properly, Ronan. Don't stain your hands with execution justice." The Silvercrest Alpha trembled with barely restrained violence. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Take them to the holding cells. They'll face the tribunal at dawn." He looked at Matthias, his son, his heir, his greatest failure. "And may the goddess have mercy on their souls. Because I won't." As guards dragged the prisoners away, Ronan turned back to Ethan and Aria. "Come home," he said simply. "Both of you. Let me try to make this right." Aria felt Ethan tense against her, felt his uncertainty through the bond. "We'll think about it," she said for both of them. "But first, there's someone we need to find." They found Cade in Silvercrest's dungeon 3 days later. He was barely conscious, silver burns covering his arms where the chains had held him, his face swollen from beatings. But when Aria and Ethan descended the stone steps, his eyes opened, gray and defiant even through the damage. "You're alive," he rasped. "Thank the goddess." Ethan broke the chains with his bare hands while Aria supported Cade's weight. He was lighter than he should be, half-starved in the days since Matthias had imprisoned him. "Why?" Aria asked as they helped him toward the surface. "Why betray Matthias at the last second? You could have let us die and secured your position." Cade managed a broken smile. "Because I looked at you, freezing and desperate and still fighting, and I saw my sister. Saw what she must have looked like in her last moments, alone and terrified because I did nothing." His voice cracked. "I couldn't do nothing again." "You saved our lives," Ethan said quietly. "Nearly died for it. Worth it." Cade squinted against the daylight as they emerged into the courtyard. "Did you get them?" "Marcus and Matthias." "We got them," Aria confirmed. "Tribunals in an hour. They'll both be sentenced." "Good." Cade swayed, and Aria caught him. "My sister can finally rest." The tribunal was held in the Great Hall, now packed with witnesses from every attending pack. Aria sat between Ethan and Luca, her mate's hand firmly clasped in hers. Across the room, Ronan sat in the Alpha's seat, his expression carved from stone. Marcus and Matthias were brought in chains. The evidence was presented: financial records, letters, testimonies from wolves who'd survived their manipulations. River Pax Alpha presided as neutral arbiter, her verdict clear even before deliberations began. "Marcus, former elder of Silvercrest Pack," she intoned. "You are found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, treason against your Alpha, and crimes against Pack law spanning 7 years. The sentence is death." Marcus showed no reaction, his face blank with resignation. "Matthias, heir of Silvercrest Pack," she continued. "You are found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, 7 counts of falsifying evidence leading to wrongful death, attempted murder of your Alpha's guests, and treason against Pack law. The sentence is death." Matthias lunged against his chains, snarling. "My father will." "Your father recommended this sentence," River Pax Alpha said coldly. "And as Alpha, Ronan has the right to commute or carry it out." All eyes turned to Ronan. The Silvercrest Alpha rose slowly, his gaze moving from Marcus to Matthias. "I should have seen what you were," he said to Marcus. "Should have questioned your counsel. My father trusted you and you killed him." I trusted you, and you destroyed innocent lives. He turned to Matthias. And you, I raised you to be strong, to lead. But somewhere, I failed to teach you that strength without honor is just cruelty. His voice broke. You're my son, my blood, and I would give anything to change what you've become. Matthias's fury crumbled into something smaller. Desperate. Father, please. But I can't. Ronan's jaw set. I can't let my love for you justify the deaths of 7 wolves. The suffering of those you framed. The corruption you've spread. He looked at River Pax Alpha. The sentences stand. They'll be carried out at sunset. Matthias screamed rage and denial and the death of all his ambitions. Marcus remained silent. As guards dragged them away, Ronan approached Ethan. I can't undo what was done to you. Can't give you back 7 years. But Silvercrest owes you a debt that can never be repaid. I don't want payment, Ethan said quietly. I want peace. Then let me offer you something. Ronan glanced at Aria, then back to Ethan. Come home. Both of you. Take positions in my council. Help me rebuild what Marcus and Matthias corrupted. Aria felt Ethan's uncertainty through the bond, felt him weighing the offer. I appreciate it, Ethan said finally. But Silvercrest was never truly my home. I was traded there as a hostage, served as alpha because duty demanded it, and was exiled when I became inconvenient. He looked at Luca. My home, my family, is Blackwood. Luca's expression lit with fierce pride. But, Ethan continued, looking at Aria, my mate deserves to choose where we live. She was born in Silvercrest, even if she was never treated as she deserved. All eyes turned to Aria. She thought about it, really thought about returning to the pack that had discarded her, that had sent her to die in the snow. She'd always wanted to belong there, to be accepted. But belonging wasn't about the place. It was about the people. I choose Blackwood, she said firmly, looking at Ethan. I choose wherever you are. That's home. Ethan pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. Ronan nodded slowly, respect in his eyes. Then take this instead, an alliance. Between Silvercrest and Blackwood. Trade agreements. Border cooperation. Let us heal the rifts Marcus created. Agreed, Luca said immediately, extending his hand. Ronan clasped it, and something fundamental shifted in the room, decades of suspicion and manufactured conflict finally beginning to dissolve. 3 months later, Aria stood in a clearing deep in Blackwood territory, surrounded by pack members who'd come to witness the mating ceremony. She wore white, simple and elegant, with winter flowers woven through her no longer hair. Ethan stood across from her in traditional ceremonial dress, his amber eyes full of wonder and love and promises. Luca presided, his voice carrying across the gathered wolves. We witnessed the bonding of mates, Ethan Blackwood and Aria, formerly of Silvercrest. 2 wolves who found each other in exile, who fought against impossible odds, who chose love over survival. He bound their hands with a silver cord. Do you, Ethan, take Aria as your mate? To protect, to cherish, to honor for all your days. I do, Ethan said, his voice steady and sure. Do you, Aria, take Ethan as your mate? To stand beside, to challenge, to love for all your days. I do, Aria whispered, tears streaming. Then by the laws of our kind and the blessing of the goddess, I declare you made it. Luca smiled. You may seal the bond. Ethan pulled her close and kissed her, deep and claiming and full of everything they'd survived to reach this moment. The mate bond flared between them, fully realized now, permanent and unbreakable. The pack howled their approval, the sound echoing through the forest. When they finally broke apart, Aria saw Cade standing at the edge of the crowd, healed now, wearing Blackwood colors. He'd requested sanctuary after the tribunal, unable to return to a Silvercrest that reminded him too much of loss. She caught his eye and smiled. He nodded back, peace finally settling in his expression. Later, as the celebration continued with food and music and dancing, Aria found herself on the porch of the home Ethan had built for them, larger than his cabin, designed for a family rather than an exile's solitude. Ethan joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. "Regrets?" he murmured against her hair. "None." She leaned into him. "You. Only that I didn't find you sooner." Aria turned in his arms, cupping his scarred face. "You found me exactly when you were supposed to. When I needed you most. When you needed me most." "I was dying in that forest," Ethan said softly. "Not physically, but in every way that mattered. Alone. Convinced I was the monster they'd named me. Then this small, stubborn Omega appeared in the snow and refused to give up." "You saved me first," Aria reminded him. "We saved each other." They kissed again, soft and sweet, while inside the celebration continued and their pack rejoiced. 6 months later, when Aria told Ethan she was pregnant, he cried, actually cried, holding her and murmuring thank yous to the goddess for this impossible gift. 9 months after that, when their daughter was born with russet hair and amber eyes, they named her Hope. Because that's what they'd given each other in that frozen forest, hope that even the most broken wolves could heal, that exile could become homecoming, that the Omega nobody wanted and the Alpha everyone feared could build something beautiful from the ashes of their pain. Ronan visited twice a year, bringing reports of Silvercrest's recovery and slowly rebuilding his friendship with Ethan. The packs traded freely now, cooperated on border defense, shared resources during harsh winters. Cade eventually found his own mate, a fierce Blackwood warrior who matched his quiet strength and built a life free from guilt and ghosts. And sometimes, when snow fell heavy on the forest, Aria would stand at her window and remember the girl who'd crawled through a blizzard toward death. That girl was gone. In her place stood a woman, mated, loved, powerful in ways that had nothing to do with rank and everything to do with refusing to surrender. A woman who'd exposed corruption, survived exile, and claimed her place not as an invisible Omega, but as someone worthy of being seen. Ethan would find her in those moments, pull her close, and they'd watch the snow together. Not as enemies of winter, but as wolves who'd survived it. Together. Always together. And that was more than enough. That was everything. And that's the end. What did you think of Aria and Ethan's journey? Did this story hit you in the feels? Drop a comment with your favorite moment, and if you loved this story, please subscribe for more emotional werewolf romance tales. Also, should I do a sequel following Hope's story when she grows up? Let me know. Thank you so much for reading, beautiful souls. Until next time.